What's going on, guys? It's John here from Hot Take Hockey to talk about an NHL trade rumor between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Vancouver Canucks. So if you are here, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. Hit a thumbs up. Comment your thoughts below on possibly Nikita Zaitsev being traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And obviously, Zaitsev, he requested a trade from Toronto. Dubas came out saying he was going to respect the wishes of Zaitsev. And at one point, Leafs fans were saying, would Zaitsev be a guy that we could trade? And you know what? Zaitsev, $4.5 million cap hit for 5 more years. He's honestly, in a lot of sense, a defensive liability, especially if you don't have a guy on his left side helping him out. Obviously, things improved quite a bit when he partnered up with Jake Muzzin. But he's also a right-handed defenseman, so I feel like that's where teams are looking at him now as possibly a fit and not that much of a cap dump. Elliot Friedman also brought up that the Lightning and Devils would be in on Zaitsev possibly as well, but this was the tweet from Rick Dollywell on Twitter. The Canucks are busy working the phones on the trade market. They checked in on the price for Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Nikita Zaitsev, and yeah, obviously you see it right there. A lot of teams are getting interest in Zaitsev, so I do believe that Zaitsev will be traded this offseason, as well as Patrick Marleau. I'm going to talk about some players that could go back to the Leafs in this trade, because he also then goes on Twitter with an update saying that if this deal does move forward, at this very moment, they don't have a player in mind that would be going back to Toronto. But I'm going to talk about that right now. So a guy like Louis Eriksson, that's way too much of a cap dump. That wouldn't work. But a guy like Brandon Sutter. So the Leafs end up trading a guy like Nazem Kadri. That would put a big hole in their 3C spot. And I feel like Brandon Sutter, who has 2 years left at $4.38 million, could be a fit for the Leafs. He hasn't played well with the Canucks. Canucks fans want him gone. That could be a fit at 2 years left at around the same cap hit as Zaitsev and fit that hole if the Leafs were going to trade Kadri. Another couple options would be a Ryan Spooner. Obviously, this is much more of a cap dump. Spooner at this point has not fit with the last 2 teams he's played for. And when he got traded from the Edmonton Oilers to the Vancouver Canucks, it was exactly that, a cap dump in exchange for Sam Gagner. So Ryan Spooner, 1 year left at $3.1 million. Maybe the Leafs just take on that contract and could get an asset back. With Zaitsev going to Vancouver, again, Nikolai Goldobin, Marcus Granlund. Some people are joking about Josh Levo going back to Toronto. I don't know if those are fits there. All 3 are RFAs. And this one is one that Leaf fans are talking about. And again, I think the Leafs would need to include another asset along with Zaitsev going to Vancouver, and that's Troy Stecher. I think the Canucks value Troy Stecher a lot. He has 1 year left at about I think it's $2.33 million, which is not horrible for a guy that's been playing top 4, sometimes top 2 minutes for the Vancouver Canucks. And for Troy Stecher, if he was going to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs, again, I think it would be an overpayment to include a guy like Kasperi Kapanen or Andreas Johnsson. Maybe it becomes a 2-for-2 trade with the Vancouver Canucks, including another asset on top of like a Stecher. But again, this is very much speculation. There's no rumors tied to a player on the Canucks that could go back to the Leafs. This is just me speculating and looking at the players that could go back to Toronto. And another one would be Ben Hutton. Ben Hutton hasn't really fit great with the Canucks in the last 2 years, the last couple of years. And honestly, he's an RFA right now. There's not really a solid market on where they could re-sign Ben Hutton. I would imagine it's going to come anywhere from like 2.5, 3.5 million. It's going to probably come under what Zaitsev's got. So if you send Hutton back to the Leafs, Hutton can play like a 5-6 role maybe with Toronto at a cheaper cap hit. That's definitely an option. Again, a lot of speculation, but I did want to make this video to talk about the fact that I think the Leafs and Canucks could have a trade brewing here. Obviously, we've talked about the Leafs and Canucks with like Chris Tanev for a while. Obviously, Canucks fans were drooling over the fact that they could get like a guy like William Nylander. Is a trade like that possibly still going to go down? Maybe not. I will say Nylander, obviously in the World Championships, went off. And I think the Leafs are expecting him to get a bounce back. I think Canucks fans would still be drooling over Nylander, maybe partnered up with a guy like Pettersson. So again, I think Canucks fans, Leafs fans, maybe you get excited over a trade, but I think it might be a smaller trade, and it might be Nikita Zaitsev going to the Vancouver Canucks. Right-handed defenseman, I think he can play a solid, maybe like 4 role in Vancouver behind guys like Stetcher, Hughes, and I don't know if Edler's going to re-sign. But Zaitsev, we've talked about it. I think, honestly, in a proper role with a good defense partner, I think you're also not overpaying because the defense market isn't great in free agency, and a guy like Tyler Myers is probably going to get overpaid. So Zaitsev 4.5 million. Honestly, at a fair market value, I would say Zaitsev would come in around like 3 to 3.5. He's a right-handed defenseman, and he's like a fifth defenseman, a fourth on a lot of non-playoff teams. And that market comes in around, again, 2.5 to 3.5 million. So the fact that he's a right-hand defenseman, which adds a little more value, I would mark him in around 3 to 3.5. Again, Leaf fans get so frustrated with all his giveaways, but he is physical. He provides that physical presence. And again, if he's with a good defenseman, if he has a good defense partner, we saw it with Jake Muzzin, who's reliable in the back end, then Zaitsev is not that bad in a good situation. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel, hit a thumbs up, comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this trade rumor. Let me know if you think it's possible, which player could go back to the Leafs. It's going to be interesting to see all the trades and free agency signings that could go down in the offseason. All right, guys, this was John. Have a good one. Peace out.